Network 216 proudly presents a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast that's full of laughs, fun, optimism, and sometimes the cold hard truth. A show in which all Cavaliers fans can be heard and welcome. A show in which we break down what we see, what we think we'll see, and have some fun along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to I Agree, Go Cavs.
Woof, that was rough. Welcome in, everybody, to episode 7 of I Agree, Go Cavs. I'm your host, Jacob at Roaches and 13, joined by Mr. Zach DeFranco this fine Saturday. Zach, how you doing?
Oh man, was that a kind of expected West Coast road trip for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I think by the time we got to towards the end of it, I think if you were to look back and be realistic, you'd probably be like, yeah, that probably makes sense. They were probably
they're tough trips for any East Coast team.
And you're talking about like kind of potentially over performing yourself a little bit early. I still think it's a very good team, but yeah, I don't think it's I don't know. I'm not doom and gloom. We'll dive right on into that. Let's talk about our friends over at Homage real quick. I've got the let them know on here. We got the Spider Mitchell over here. You know, it'll be in the description once the show is done live and all that stuff. You can find it on our website, network216ohio.com, which will show you a link on that homepage directly to the shirt that Zach is wearing right now. So if you guys want to comment on the show live over here, you can go to YouTube or Facebook. We cannot see the Twitter comments. So Zach, they go 2-3,
yeah,
which puts you at 8-4, which is like, I mean, let me ask you this before we kind of dive into the whole road trip. If I told you a month or two ago they would start 8-4, how would you feel?
Oh, amazing, absolutely amazing. Yeah, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, like yeah, we traded for Donovan Mitchell, and people thought that it was going to be an improvement, but you still have to click as a team. And obviously, Garland goes down early. That affects your chemistry in general, and you can see it is. But yeah, also it's a West Coast road trip too, and the team struggled in general. So
yeah, and you know, you definitely wanted to get one of those and make it 3-2. That was a very good. Ainsley's checking in from the other room here.
Hi, Ainsley.
Anyway, we're you know, it's rough to see any kind of road trip go like that, but I can tell you that just to watch those games, it was pretty hard for me to stay up. I can only imagine the players that were trying to play in those games, and you go, it's just, and you've had 3 overtime games already.
Mm-hmm.
When you add all of that stuff up together, and you talk about a West Coast trip where there was an emotional high beating LeBron. I truly think that. And
oh, absolutely. Because you've had comments from Darius Garland saying how he wants to build a legacy away from LeBron too. So that team doing that without him as well. You know.
Yeah. And getting that. And then you talk about it like, okay, so we've got 2 games to discuss. We've got the loss to the Kings and the loss to, I'm blanking. What in the heck? The Warriors. Why I couldn't think of them for a second. Last night, trying to talk about that. Down the stretch in the Kings, Darius Garland was struggling to the point where the dude wasn't taking shots. Like, yeah, you get down to the end of that game, and he's not taking shots or anything, good or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There was a lot of tired legs, a lot of bad looks, a lot of missed open shots, a lot of bad habits. So where do you want to start here, Zach? What is the biggest takeaway from this road trip? Is everything that you think is an issue fixable?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, that hot start you have, like you kind of, honestly, you save room for games like we just did on the West Coast. Like we could start 8-4 now instead of 4-8. Like, come on, guys. Like we it's not throw in the towel. It's nothing like that. Yes, a lot of fans want to point towards this idea that the team is better without Garland. I don't know why I'm seeing that. Like this kid needs to get comfortable. He's playing next to Donovan Mitchell now. Okay, it's not Colin Sexton anymore. It's not a hurt Colin Sexton. It's not him having to take over. This team's gonna be fine. This team's gonna be dangerous in the East.
I wanted to check something to your point here. Let me make sure I say this correctly. Yes, Darius Garland is 22.
Yeah, exactly. And just got his max extension. Like, come on.
Yeah, you know what? you and I talked about this, and we talked about this on this show with other people that have been on here with us as well. We talked about thinking that this team potentially going into the season was going to need some time to gel together, and then it kind of didn't need time, it felt like, because they were out there, winning 8 in a row.
Having fun, playing with energy, having fun. Just wanted to, like LeBron said, dude, that's a team that just wants to play basketball. And they still show that on the West Coast. It was just, guys, it's the West Coast. Like you have to change a lot to get ready to prepare for those kind of games and against good West Coast teams as well.
Those Warriors came out firing too.
They show why they're the Warriors, man. That's what they did.
I still have PTSD anytime Steph takes a deep three in any way, shape, or form. And of course, he burned him for 40 last night. So I was
absolutely.
Justified.
Why not?
It's just like anytime you have to have a big stop against the Warriors, they're going to jack up a three that they're going to make. And that's just PTSD from those 4 years. And I could just had so many flashbacks when I was
that Kevin Durant shot. That Kevin Durant shot. Do you remember that from the corner? Oh my God, dude!
I remember that. I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, preparing to deploy to Afghanistan. When I was shot. It was a rough place to be. And then the Browns lost every game that year too. If anybody remembers what year that was, 2017. What a year! I think it was Chris Fedor maybe, or somebody else that I was reading today was talking about the Cavs need to figure out the offensive dynamic in the fourth quarter with these two guards. And I hadn't really thought about the dynamic side of it. Obviously, they need to figure out the fourth quarter because there's been a lot of sloppy play, even in some of these wins in the fourth quarter where they've kind of they've not closed it the way that I'm willing to bet if you ask them, they would tell you, no, that's not the way we wish we had closed these basketball games. And it's very interesting that the rest of the team didn't need to gel with Donovan Mitchell because he was a superstar that was going to just need supported. Then you brought another superstar in to go with all of that. And I think it's just kind of taken some time. And I think that injury really derailed Garland. He came back on fire in that first game. And then these last two games especially, he's just looked tired. He's looked a little bit unconfident at some time. He's still dishing the basketball out really well, like one of the best passers in the league.
Yeah.
He is. But I just think that they also are doing this thing where there were some screenshots on Twitter where they were initiating the offense late in the fourth quarter with 9 and 12 seconds on the shot clock. That's when they were initiating the offense. And then they're getting kind of mixed up between who's going to facilitate it, who's going to take the shot. And I think they're just not comfortable yet. I just don't think that the two superstars are comfortable.
It's about trust too. You got to try. They've had time to play together, but it's not like team chemistry building now. It's fun in like a sponsorship basketball game together, or working together and training and stuff in the off season. This is actually building to play for a championship is what they both want. So that's a whole different ball of wax for two stars to get together and do something like that. I think it's going to be fine. Like Donovan Mitchell is taking on this veteran role and running with it and looking like a clear path MVP candidate right now in Cleveland too. So don't let that be overlooked because Darius Garland's got to take the rust off a little bit coming back.
I just don't. Yeah, I'm not concerned about it completely. Obviously,
I would say a lot of our success too is when Karis LeVert has a good game. When Karis LeVert can shoot, this team seems to pull away way easier. Like when his West Coast, I think his highest game was against the Kings. I believe he had like 21 points or 21 points.
Yeah.
10 rebounds. Like when Karis LeVert does that, like consistently, this team is in way better hands to win games.
Well, and then you look at the Warriors. He's got 11 points in 34 minutes. They get 13 points off the bench against the Warriors in that game. I think one thing we've definitely learned early on, and maybe I'm crazy, outside of the Karis LeVert thing, which I 100% agree, which Karis LeVert's presence on the defense and facilitating has been understated in my opinion.
Oh, I love Karis this year. I just don't think he should be playing the 3 for us right now, but that's a whole different story.
Well, that's and that's a conversation we had on the last episode of this show.
Yeah.
I know you weren't on here. It's like they need a wing, and that becomes more and more apparent every night. And I wonder too, like we're going to get to this guy. Let me talk about this other thing real quick. Dean Wade's absence was felt. I feel like even if he's not making shots, he does prevent a little bit more of a threat off the bench. And so off the bench, you see, okay, they went with 8-man on Friday. So they go with just Kevin Love, Jetty, and Isaac Okoro. Jetty doesn't score. Isaac Okoro scores 4. We'll get to him in a second. I fully will devote some time to that. I know you have some things as well as I do. I know some things to say there. So we'll get there. We'll get there in just a second. But without Dean Wade's presence, you had one shooter off the bench. And I know that Jetty is a shooter too, but he has a couple of times just not even taken very many shots. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but just I think without Dean Wade there, shrinking it to a 3-man again, I think it was a bigger issue than what some people might have addressed, because I think Dean Wade has been overall, just like Karis LeVert, I think that the stat line is not all you can look at if you want to understand what Dean Wade and Karis LeVert are bringing.
Oh, yeah, he brings you a lot of points off the bench. Even 6 or up off the bench from Dean Wade helps right now. Seriously, it does.
Yeah.
A few 3-pointers, get the team hyped up off the bench, get those starters to come in with some energy. That's all you need. You need guys like that. And I don't think it's underestimated anymore how important the return of Ricky Rubio is going to be for Darius Garland too.
Just for the whole rotation.
Yeah, that having a presence like that with Ricky Rubio showed even last year in itself how important it was.
Well, and you're looking at it right now, and that is, we talked about this. There is not another, Raul Neto, but for whatever reason, he hasn't played the last 3 or 4 games. Some people think there was a little bit of an injury there that might have been part of it. But right now, you don't have a ball handler that you completely trust outside of Mitchell and Garland. I don't see it. You play Raul Neto sometimes, and Karis LeVert can do it too, but you've got all 3 of those guys in the starting lineup, and because of that, you've got to get a little bit creative. And I think JB at times his rotations have not been the best, and I think he's also figuring out what he's got on the team, so I'm not totally concerned about that yet as we sit here in the middle of November. But here's the question. We're going to move here to Isaac Okoro, right? We're going to move to the elephant in the room, and we'll talk about this. So my question becomes this. He is not providing you anything off the bench offensively. I understand that some of his defensive things are not where they normally are. He's getting a lot more fouls than he traditionally does too, which kind of, obviously it bothers you. So you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on there. Is there a spot for Okoro in the starting lineup? Because, hear me out, he's not going to provide you a ton of offense. Well, I don't need him to provide offense with Mobley, Allen, Garland, and Mitchell in the court, but will he be able to provide the defense at the 3 to guard some of these wings that Karis LeVert's not able to do? That would make it work better. And then Karis can be that facilitator and scorer off the bench.
And you're saying this until Rubio comes?
Yeah. And then everything changes, yeah.
I guess I could see, why not try? But I would rather have LeVert out there with the ones. I would. I'd rather have at least a 2-way player out there with the ones. Yeah. Because you never know. Mitchell and Garland, they're showing, it could be iffy to start. The bigs kind of, I know Dave talks about it a lot. D. Will, he would just head on how timid they start a game. You need them to be aggressive. They're your guys that you want to start a game with. Get the energy started off right. Beat them down low, man. That's why you have Allen and Mobley. So I would rather have LeVert right now over Okoro starting. Okoro is just upsetting me, though. I called for him to be traded last night on Twitter. I called for it. Chop said that Shanghai isn't calling, so we can't trade him out of the country.
Hey, you never know. We could see what happens. So I talked about this on Tuesday as well. With Okoro, is there what value are you finding moving forward? Is it just that he gives you a guy that gives you effort? Because he's going to give you effort defense. I will give him that if you want to talk about a guy that tries to really play defense. He does, in fact, do that. But at this point, if he's not dunking, I believe the stats 6 for 29 or something like that on field goals that are not dunks. So if you take out those dunks, which I can't remember if he had I know one of his buckets last night was a big dunk. So
Yeah.
that's 2 of his 4 points. I think it was actually an and one there at that point too. I'm not sure, but I just don't know. I want to, every time I see him I've seen players not pass the ball to him. That's where we're getting.
Oh, and defenses don't even care about him.
No, they don't care.
They don't care about him. And I think when Dean Wade comes back, I think it's time to let Isaac Okoro just give him 6 minutes a game right now, if anything. I'm serious. I'm serious, dude. Right now he's not it. He's not really helping you anything other than the defensive side of the ball, but I still think he's just a liability on offense.
Yeah, and I mean, at a certain point, you just can't do it anymore. Especially if you right now, you say
okay, he's a rebuilding player on a non-rebuilding team right now.
Yeah.
He's not for this Cavs team. This Cavs team is playing for the Eastern Conference Championship. Straight up, they are.
Does this so that raises this question? Does this mean potentially that he is a trade piece? Is there value in the trade market? Do you think?
I posted that tweet yesterday, and I mean, I didn't get a crap ton of replies, but everyone was like, he's not worth anything, so you're not going to get anything for him.
Okay. So can he be a piece with picks?
Possibly.
Do
we need the picks? Do we need the picks right now? No. I don't think we do. I think we got our core. We got our core, dude, right now. So
we've talked about this. These picks aren't lottery picks anymore. They're not going to be lottery picks. So
trade them away.
Yeah, I don't care. Even more so in the NBA than the NFL. But you're seeing that you can do it both ways if you know what you're doing. And I'll give Altman credit. I mean, it was rough for a while on this rebuild, and we were not sure it was ever going to come. And then all of a sudden it came. And think about this. This season was going to be exciting without Mitchell. This team
absolutely
was probably going to compete, at least for the play-in again, and then all of a sudden you're just let's throw a superstar in there. So maybe he could work some magic. I don't know. And he can ship Okoro out of town, and we can figure that out.
So who are we talking though? We got to get a wing. That's the thing where I'm thinking that we're slacking right now is that three presence.
I mean, that's what I would do. I'm not sure who's available. I haven't dug into some of those things enough, and I know it's still kind of early on for teams to start trading, players unless they're disgruntled. I know I heard Jay Crowder's name floated out there, but don't. Everybody, it was kind of funny. Everybody says they want a shooter, and it's well, we don't have one of those. we're working on that. Our only shooters are bigs that can shoot 3 off the bench, and then Mitchell and Garland, and you're not giving up any of those. So if you're trying to trade a guy like Okoro, it's probably not going to be for a guy like Jay Crowder, because I don't think that's what Phoenix needs. No. So, which is kind of interesting that they're willing to pony him up, but I think it's more of a needing a change of scenery than anything down there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So regroup, you play again tomorrow, you return back to Cleveland. Let's bring this up. I want to bring up the schedule real quick, just so I can do kind of a quick outlook. So you got the T-Wolves tomorrow, then you head to Milwaukee. So those two, you get 2 days off. You get Monday, Tuesday. That's a Wednesday game, so that's nice. So you're finally going to get a couple of days off there real quick, which is nice. You like to see that. But you got a chance with the Timberwolves, 6:00 game tomorrow, hopefully riding a high from the Browns and sitting there. I mean, I feel pretty good about their chances tomorrow night. The T-Wolves aren't exactly like slackers or anything like that. I'm not going to call them that, but they have a losing record. And I feel like when you get a team that has a losing record in a situation like this, where you are supposed to be a pretty decent team, you've got to be able to take advantage of that sort of thing. So I don't know. It seems like that's a pretty good matchup. I think that they can match up pretty well against the Timberwolves. So how do you feel? So let me give you the outlook of this week. Let's talk about that. I just had it up and then I got rid of it.
Timberwolves, Bucks, and then on Wednesday is the Bucks. Tomorrow's Timberwolves. Friday is the Hornets.
And then you got the Heat on Sunday.
Yeah.
So you got to go to Milwaukee, but then you've got 4 home games in a row with the Hornets, Heat, Hawks, and Trailblazers from now until Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. So I think you've got a pretty good shot here. Milwaukee, that's going to be fun. rather you win, lose, or draw on that one. That's going to be fun to be able to match yourself up against who I think is the best team in basketball.
The best team in basketball. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you feel about the outlook next couple of weeks going forward?
On paper, looking at it, you go probably. I would say out of the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would say about 4 or 5.
Yeah, I would say
on paper. Like when you look at the schedule and how this team has been playing, now coming off that West Coast, where I think they kind of came back down to reality a little bit.
Well, you got to think. So you've got the game on the 17th, you don't have a game on the 17th. That's the day after you play Milwaukee, and before you go home, and you have games through Thanksgiving at home. So you're talking about, was that like almost 6-7 days, over a week, in which you will actually be in Cleveland because you have no other reason to go anywhere until until the game when you go to Milwaukee again on Black Friday. So you've got an opportunity here to get home, get right, get healthy, get rested. I mean, this team is traveling all over the place, playing already in 3 overtime games and trying to bring in another superstar in Darius Garland and try to figure out how to get all these pieces together. Well, you're about to have a week plus in Cleveland coming up. You're in Cleveland right now, so you got a little bit of time to figure some things out while you're at home, which is just much easier to do on your own court and your own bed and all that good stuff. Then you're going to go play Milwaukee. Then you're going to get to come home and hang out. You got 4 games in a row over 7 to 9 days, whatever it is there, that you'll be in Cleveland. This is the time to do it, man. Go home, figure things out, rest your guys up, figure out what's going on with this rotation, because I think JB still is just not confident in the total rotation top to bottom.
Yeah, and it's just not healthy. Like you said, get home and rest up. Like I'm telling you, like when we get Rubio back, it's going to be such a big difference.
Is there a timetable on that?
Dude, I was honestly going to ask you. I have no idea.
I haven't heard anything about him in a while. I could look it up, but they just talk about him, in terms of, not being healthy yet. I don't see anything. Off the rip a little bit there about.
That's a lengthy recovery, dude.
Oh yeah, it was in December. Was the tear, right?
Yeah, it was right, like during like the back. Was it after the All-Star break or right before?
I can't even remember. It was interesting because it was right before. Well, it was right before the Karis LeVert trade, wasn't it? Because he was part of it. Mm-hmm. So, whenever that trade went down, that's when it was. Because then they buy him out, and then they're like, "Oh, he might actually go back to Cleveland," and we were all like, "Oh, that's hilarious!" And then he did, and Donovan Mitchell came too, and you're just like, "Well, hey, this is a fun conversation." Well, Zach, I feel better. I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode. I think it just, you look at it and you say, okay, that was tough. That was rough. You're going to have these games, regroup, go home. You've got this big stretch at home coming up. You have an opportunity to start another streak. You got an opportunity to have a measuring stick on Wednesday. And I'm actually really excited about that game because you're able to look at it and you're able to say, okay, win, lose, or draw. This is the pinnacle. Milwaukee right now is the pinnacle, at least in the East. I think it's all basketball, but at least in the East, Milwaukee's the pinnacle. You're going to be able to go head-to-head twice this month, but really soon. And then after you play that game, you can say, okay, this is where we are. This is where they are, where we want to be. Now let's get into the shop and let's figure this thing out. And you have this opportunity to just get your legs back under you. And I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a fun ride, like the entire season. So this is just the beginning. Like 8-4, that's a great start for the Cavaliers compared to last season too. Like I'm pumped. I'm pumped for the future of this team and for them to really start clicking and getting healthy.
I agree. Go Habs. All right. We that's it. That's it for the episode 6. Episode 7. We will be back Wednesday morning with our normal short episode. Well, all these things are short. Apparently we got too much to say about the bad Browns, but in these ones we just kind of talk quickly. Anyway, tomorrow, quick pregame show for the Browns. We'll drop about 7 a.m.
Awesome.
We appreciate all of you. Thanks again for giving some of your time to us. We will talk to you guys again soon. Go Cavs.